Mr. Gray was not secured by a seatbelt in the wagon, contrary to a B.P.D. general order. Lieutenant Rice then directed Officer Goodson to transport Mr. Gray to the central booking and intake facility. Following transport from Baker Street, Mr. Gray suffered a severe and critical neck injury as a result of being handcuffed, shackled by his feet, and unrestrained inside of the B.P.D. wagon.
Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby announced in her press conference that Freddie Gray suffered the injury which killed him while he was in the back of the Baltimore Police Department wagon. From what she has said, apparently the case being made is that while alone in the back of the police wagon, Gray suffered his fatal injury as Officer Goodson was driving the wagon.
He subsequently parked the wagon and proceeded to the back of the wagon in order to observe Mr. Gray. Despite stopping for the purpose of checking on Mr. Gray's condition, at no point did he seek nor did he render any medical assistance for Mr. Gray. Officer Goodson returned to his driver's seat and proceeded toward the central booking and intake facility with Mr. Gray still unsecured by a seatbelt, contrary to a B.P.D. general order. Officer William Porter arrived on the scene near Dolphin Street and Druid Hill Avenue. Both Officer Goodson and Officer Porter proceeded to the back of the wagon to check on the status of Mr. Gray's condition. Mr. Gray at that time requested help and indicated that he could not breathe. Officer Porter asked Mr. Gray if he needed a medic, at which time Mr. Gray indicated at least twice that he was in need of a medic. Officer Porter then physically assisted Mr. Gray from the floor of the van to the bench. However, despite Mr. Gray's appeal for a medic, both officers assessed Mr. Gray's condition, and at no point did either of them restrain Mr. Gray per B.P.D. general order, nor did they render or request medical assistance. Despite Mr. Gray's obvious and recognized need for medical assistance, Officer Goodson, in a grossly negligent manner, chose to respond to the 1600 block of West North Avenue with Mr. Gray still unsecured by a seatbelt in the wagon without rendering to or summoning medical assistance for Mr. Gray. Officer Goodson arrived at North Avenue to transport the individual arrested at the location of North Avenue and Pennsylvania Avenue, at which time he was again met by Officer Nero, Miller, Porter, and Lieutenant Rice. When the wagon arrived, Officer Goodson walked to the back of the wagon and again opened the doors to the wagon to make observations of Mr. Gray. Sergeant Alicia White, Officer Porter, and Officer Goodson observed Mr. Gray unresponsive on the floor of the wagon. Sergeant White, who was responsible for investigating 2 citizen complaints pertaining to Mr. Gray's illegal arrest, spoke to the back of Mr. Gray's head. When he did not respond, she did nothing further, despite the fact that she was advised that he needed a medic. She made no effort to look or assess or determine his condition. Despite Mr. Gray's seriously deteriorating medical condition, no medical assistance was rendered or summoned for Mr. Gray at that time by any officer. Mr. Gray was no longer breathing at all. A medic was finally called to the scene, where upon arrival, the medic determined that Mr. Gray was now in cardiac arrest and was critically and severely injured. Mr. Gray was rushed to the University of Maryland Shock Trauma, where he underwent surgery. On April 19, 2015, Mr. Gray succumbed to his injuries and was pronounced dead. The manner of death, deemed a homicide by the Maryland State Medical Examiner, is believed to be the result of a fatal injury that occurred while Mr. Gray was unrestrained by a seatbelt in the custody of the Baltimore Police Department wagon.
I don't think much of the media is doing a good job reporting the facts concerning the Freddie Gray story. I wanted to learn the who and the how regarding the murder charge and manslaughter charges against Baltimore police officers in Mr. Gray's death. Only Officer Goodson is charged with murder, and that second-degree murder charge is apparently for not getting Mr. Gray medical attention. From what the prosecutor is saying, apparently the charges against Goodson directly related to Mr. Gray's fatal injury are manslaughter by vehicle, gross negligence, and manslaughter by vehicle, criminal negligence.
While each of these officers are presumed innocent until proven guilty, we have brought the following charges. Officer Goodson is being charged with second-degree depraved-heart murder, involuntary manslaughter, second-degree negligent assault, manslaughter by vehicle by means of gross negligence, manslaughter by vehicle by means of criminal negligence, misconduct in office for failure to secure a prisoner, failure to render aid. Officer William Porter is being charged with involuntary manslaughter, assault in the second degree, misconduct in office. Lieutenant Brian Rice is being charged with involuntary manslaughter, assault in the second degree, misconduct in office, false imprisonment. Officer Edward Nero is being charged with assault in the second degree, intentional, assault in the second degree, negligent, misconduct in office, false imprisonment. Officer Garrett Miller is being charged with intentional assault in the second degree, assault in the second degree, negligent, misconduct in office, and false imprisonment. Sergeant Alicia White is being charged with manslaughter, involuntary manslaughter, second degree assault, misconduct in office.
I don't think most of the news has done a good job making the things I have presented in this video clear to the general public. Think about how this story is being covered by the media. Do you think the details presented here are being reported by the mass media clearly and accurately? Please leave a comment to the video and please help get this information communicated to others by using the YouTube tools. Not making a copy of the video, but by using the tools such as embedding it on your blog or emailing it to others, posting the link on Facebook or tweeting it on Twitter. And please subscribe not only to the channel, but to the blog and the email list. Because like I said, with almost 50,000 subscribers, very few apparently get notifications from YouTube when I upload a new video.